How's it going? It's Jordan Ray with eXpRealty. I am creating this video to talk about FinCEN. FinCEN is this thing that's about to go into effect on March 1st. And I've already got several transactions that are carrying over into March that are already having to do the reporting. About 95% of my business for the buyer side is investors. And so this applies a lot to investors in most cases. Most investors are either using an LLC or they're purchasing with cash or hard money. Those types of things typically fall within the FinCEN reporting requirements, or going to fall within the FinCEN reporting requirements that are going into effect on March 1st. Some other things that are being reported are quitclaim deeds, creative financing, and just anything that's not a traditional method of reporting. The things that are not required for FinCEN is if you're purchasing in your personal name. I have to. We're going to go through the slides, and I have to remember, but I think sellers that have an LLC, I think they have to report. We'll have to see here when we go through these slides because I honestly forgot. But these slides, by the way, are awesome. I got these slides from a class that I took on FinCEN a couple weeks ago, and my title company was generous enough to chase these slides down for me, send them to me. That way I can add my branding and create this YouTube video. That way all of my investor clients and anything else that applies to FinCEN, mostly my investors, will be able to go back and watch this video so they can learn about FinCEN. Because one thing's for sure is that I'm going to have a lot of clients calling me trying to figure out how to understand what this is. To make this simple, before we go any further, I'll just tell you that FinCEN is required. If you want to purchase a property, you're going to have to report. It's going to require reporting some very pertinent details that are very personal. Things like social security numbers, phone numbers, addresses, people that have ownership interest on your LLC, stuff like that. Super important that you fill these things out so you don't face a federal crime. It's super important. And I'm still learning about this, but I wanted to go ahead and put this video out just to make sure that the information was out there. And then following this video, there will be a Google Drive, and I'll put it in the link in the description of this YouTube video, where you can go into the Google Drive and you can download and look through all of the documents that I have saved that my title company sent me. You can also review these slides over again, and it'll answer any questions you got about FinCEN, or you can just go back through and watch this video and see my awesome face. Without further ado, let's go through the slides real quick. There's 40 of them. We're going to try to get through them as quickly as possible. In a nutshell, I just put out all the information. So if you don't want to watch this entire video and you are okay with reporting the information because it's a federal requirement and the title company asks you to, go ahead and report. You don't have to watch the rest of this video. But if you want to learn more about why this is required, then watch the rest of this video. So here we go. FinCEN. FinCEN is a department. It's a financial crimes enforcement network created by Congress, part of the Treasury, the U.S. Department of Treasury. And the mission of FinCEN is to safeguard financial systems from illicit use, combat money laundering and its related crimes, including terrorism, and to promote national security through strategic use of financial authorities in the collection, analysis, and dissemination of financial intelligence. Man, that's a bunch of wordy stuff, isn't it? To make it simple, they are looking out for the U.S. and trying to stop actually things like what happened in 9/11. The reason this rule is now going into effect on March 1st is because of what happened on 9/11. And there's other, scenarios where this has happened as well, but the government has been trying to find a way to stop this from happening. And so they're trying to bring all of the fraudsters away from residential real estate transactions. As you can see here, FinCEN's new regulations take effect on March 1st. Right now, I'm recording this video. It is February 28th on a Saturday at lunchtime. It's 12:03 right now when I'm recording this video. So there could be changes to this. If you're watching this video even a year from now, there could be changes to this policy. But as of right now, this is what we know, and this is what's going into effect on March 1st. And we have to report to federal regulation. We have to. Otherwise, your transactions are not going to close. Who has to report? Let's go through that. So first of all, the rule, it requires certain professionals, title companies, settlement agents, to report non-finance transfers of residential real estate to legal entities or trusts, and this applies nationwide. expanded beyond like, previous geographic targeting orders. So, it's nationwide, all across the US. If it falls within these requirements, has to be reported, or your transactions will not close, or either you or your title company will go to jail. Expanded definition: residential property includes land and some commercial properties as well. Non-finance covers more than just cash transaction. Reporting mechanisms: reports must be filed through, and your title company handles this, the FinCEN's BSA e-filing system. They're going to grab that information from you, and then they have to go and put that information into the system in order for your transaction to close. And then they have to certify that your transaction was reported through FinCEN. There's no fee for filing directly with FinCEN, although your title company probably will charge you because it is a lot of extra work. They're probably, if you have to file FinCEN, they are probably going to charge you a couple $100, $300, $400, however much they see fit to report the extra information that shouldn't even be something that they have to do in the first place, but it just so happens it's a federal regulation now, so they have to do it. So they've got to charge you for their time to report this stuff. So just do your best, work with the title company, fill out the information required so that way we can get closed, okay? And the goal of this rule is to increase transparency in real estate transactions. We're going to combat money laundering, terrorism financing, going back to what I was telling you about 9/11, terrorism, and other illicit financial activities, because there are crimes happening with these real estate transactions, and it's happening because of, because people were able to figure out ways to kind of get money through and do bad things. We got to stop that. So I'm all for this. I don't like the extra work that comes with it. I'm sure you won't either, but we all have to do it. So we're just going to stick together, report what we need. It's not public information. It's just going to the U.S. Department of Treasury. I promise you, they probably already know all this stuff anyways. And if they don't, they're about to, because otherwise you're not going to be able to invest. You're not going to be able to build your personal wealth. What is RRER? So I think that was that thing right here. Let's see. No, that's not it. Reports of details, residential cash transactions, entities, trust of FinCEN. Also includes transactions involving hard money, private lenders. I don't know. I'm going to skip that. If you want to know a little bit more about RRER, I'm sure there's a document that I've uploaded into this Google Drive link. Go and read up on it. I don't really know too much about what it is. I'm just trying to cover the important stuff. So we're gonna keep going. What is the purpose? Money laundering occurs in residential transactions, and so we're trying to stop terrorists and drug lords. Pretty crazy, right? Not anything that I've ever dealt with, not ever anything that I've ever heard of, but I'm sure it's happening in places across the country. And it's probably stuff that, has slid through and we didn't even know about it. Entities and trust identification and land records do not disclose who's the beneficial owner, person who controls the money, unless a separate report is made. FinCEN wants to know the individual's name because they can correlate other data to stop money laundering. And hopefully the money launderers quit using residential real estate to commit fraud. So that's the whole reason for the FinCEN reporting. How will this affect your closing? Buyers and sellers will have to submit information to the title company office before closing, at closing, and before closing will be scheduled. Says using insert how you obtain information, portable, something. So I know a lot of them are using like Qualia. I think Qualia is the one that people are going to because they have a fillable form that's quick and easy to fill out, kind of streamlines the process. I'm sure other title companies will have different ways that they're going to do it. I know my title company is swapping to Qualia so that way they can do this easy, thing where they can report to. This process will require buyers and sellers to certify accuracy of the information, and also your settlement agent is going to have to certify it. After closing, the title agent will handle the filing with FinCEN. So once they've gathered all the information that's required, they've settled the transaction, they filed the transaction with the county, then they're going to spend the extra time and they're going to file your FinCEN. Form changes. Title commitment. Schedule B will have a requirement to provide this information prior to or at closing. Estimated time and cost. About 2 hours for collecting. FinCEN estimates 2.5 to 2.7 hours to file RRER. 30 to 45 minutes to file the report. So they got to collect all the information that you've given them and then they got to spend another 30, 45 minutes. So it's taking them almost 3 hours additional on the transaction, on one transaction. You got to imagine title companies are doing a lot of transactions. One transaction is 3 hours additionally just to be in compliance. So that's why they're going to charge you a little bit more money, and you're going to have to do some extra legwork in order for us to close. All to urgent FinCEN and narrow scope to lessen burdens on small businesses. What information is required? As you can see right there, first bullet, there are 111 potential data points. It says potential because not all of it may not be required, but there are 111 spaces where you're going to fill out information. And that information is going to be pertinent details that you have to fill out if it pertains to the transaction. Information about entities and trusts not on the internet and only known to the parties. Contains MPI, I guess that's personal information like social security numbers and passport numbers, the buyer, entity and trust details, identification of beneficial owner, including address, social security numbers, and or passport numbers. Sellers, when the FinCEN is required, sellers also have to report information. Individual information of the entity or trust, and information about beneficial owner information, property details, and then even banking information for buyers, including disclosing their source of funds, which you shouldn't be getting funds from, drug money. It's the whole point of this. So just comply so we can close. This is required. Nobody wants to go to jail. And as I said before, if you don't file, you're going to jail, or your settlement agent is going to jail, or both. You have to file, or they're not going to close your transaction. If you're negligent, there's a fine or a penalty. And then if you willfully do not report, then you're a criminal. It's up to 5 years in prison, up to $250,000 fine, and civil, not more than the greater amount involved in the transaction, not to exceed $937. Number, I have no idea. I don't know why they couldn't just use 280,000 or 292, 300, whatever. They had to put 278,937. Anyways, we got to work together to make this smoother. That's the whole reason why I'm making this video. So that way things are understood, and that way this can be a little bit smoother. You can go through and watch the video. You can look through the Google Drive, answer any questions. You can email me, call me, text me. I will try to help you understand if the information that I have here doesn't help you understand. Please take your time, understand what you're doing. And if you don't want to take the time to understand what you're doing, at least hear me out and just follow the information so we can close, because it is important. You want to make sure you don't go to jail. Pay attention when you're filling this stuff out. As you can see here, if an entity or trust will be used, if a buyer changes their mind, the realtor must tell you ASAP so closing is not delayed. If a buyer changes their mind, I think what they're talking about is if, like, they're going to use an LLC, and all of a sudden you decide that you don't want to use an LLC, then we got to make the adjustments before closing. And then if we're not required to report FinCEN, and all of a sudden you as an investor decide you want to put this property into your LLC, then now we have to report. So it could delay closing if the seller and the buyer won't comply quickly. If you guys are hesitant, it says if the buyer is hesitant. If you guys are hesitant, it's stopping money laundering for one. So that's something that you should know. We're doing big things here, guys. We're coming together to stop money laundering. This is required by the federal government, so this is another thing you should know. Information obtained and stored securely. As I mentioned before, it's being stored with the U.S. Department of Treasury. It's not public information. And then if I can't answer your questions, if this video doesn't answer your questions, or any of the information in this Google Drive doesn't answer your questions, please reach out to the title company. Send me all your questions to my email, and I'll direct it to our closing agent. Whatever we got to do to make you get a warm and fuzzy about this information that you're filling out. Super important. So let's definitely come together, get this information together so we can close. Is the transaction reportable? Now, here's how you can tell if you're going to have to file FinCEN. I know you've been probably asking this question. These slides probably should have been at the beginning of this slideshow. The transaction is reportable, and you can actually, this document right here, I have it in the Google Drive, or it's just this PDF. You can blow it up, make it a little bit make it a little bigger. You can download it, print it off. And that way, whenever you're purchasing property, if you're buying in different ways, you can know if your transaction is reportable. I'm not going to go through this right now, but I will tell you that, just kind of give you a couple scenarios. For me, actually, I usually purchase property with a hard money loan in my LLC. That is FinCEN required. I will have to do FinCEN. When I go to refinance and I'm using my DSCR lender, they have their own reporting requirements where they're making sure that, fraud is not happening. So FinCEN will not be required when I refinance. Step 1, is this a residential transaction? 1 to 2 unit family structure, intent to build 1 to 2 unit family structure. So if you're doing a new construction, condo or townhomes, and co-op, and then certification of no interest to build, file documented. I don't know what that means. I guess when the title company made these slides, they knew a little bit more about what that meant. Non-institutional lender, so hard money lenders. Does the lender have an anti-money laundering program? So if you're going through a traditional bank, they probably have this anti-money laundering program. And if they don't, then you will have to report. Certifications on NMLS. I guess that's, yeah. So substituent 3, is this non-finance transfer? Does the lender have an anti-money laundering program? Step 4, is the buyer an individual, entity, or trust? We already spoke about that. I'll continue. Step 5, is there an exemption? Seller side, easement, transfer due to death, divorce, dissolution, transfer to bankruptcy, estate, court, supervised transfer, transfer for no consideration made by either a loan or with the individual's spouse to a trust, which that individual spouse, or both of them are the settlers or grantors, 1031 exchange, or a no reporting person. So for clarification on this stuff, please send me your questions to my email or to the settlement agent that you're working with, or your attorney, and you can get more specific information on this. But from my understanding, this stuff will be required if it's a buyer individual. If it's an entity or a trust, and if it's hard money cash, quit claim deed, creative financing, and then a couple other things. Step 6 for trust. Is there an exemption that is applicable for this trust? Buyer side. Securities reporting issuer, trustee is a securities reporting issuer, statutory trust, entity wholly owned by above. Okay. So I guess this is mostly like for banks. It doesn't really have anything to do with individuals. We'll continue. Step 6 for entities. Is there an exemption for the entity, buyer side, securities reporting issuer, government authority, bank, credit union, depository information, money service, blah, blah, blah. So basically all of these entities, they won't have to report because they already have their own They already have their own money laundering programs, most likely. So that's why these people are listed. So they would be exempt. Documenting exemptions using certifications. So your title company is going to handle this, but they're going to certify each transaction. If it's FinCEN or not, they're going to certify it with the information that is required. Exemption, documentation, seller. So you got some documents here. If you're exempt, you just have to provide those documents to let the title company know that, to show them that you are exempt, and then they don't have to report. And then you can save a couple $100. Same thing for the buyer side. So back to this, and like I said, these slides should have been at the beginning, but it's reportable. So we go through these things, we answer the questions, and we determine that it's reportable. They've got to gather your details. All right, the type of information that's going to be required, and this goes back to those 111, those touch points that we talked about. Name, address, phone, email, relationship to the buyer, entity or trust. Is it reasonable to rely on an individual who completed the form? Competency. So these are things that your settlement agent's going to be having to answer themselves. Entity, legal name of the entity, trade name, street address of the principal place of business, not a PO box. Your TIN number, foreign entity number, U.S. Social Security number, I'm sure is U.S. entity TIN. Buyer entity, BOI. You guys already are probably familiar with BOI. This is something we had to start doing a few years ago. So you're going to put that information in there. Trust. If it's a trust, they're going to have to gather that information as well. Legal name of the trust, date of execution, all the unique IDs that go along with it. Is the trust revocable? They're going to have to get that information. I don't want to go through all this stuff here, but if you want to come back through and kind of figure out what kind of stuff is going to be gathered. You should be able to gather that from this slide. And I'm pretty sure I've got a document uploaded into the Google Drive of the 111 touch points. And then, of course, whenever you're actually filing for FinCEN or you're reporting the information to your settlement agent, you're going to find out real quick what information is required, and you have to report. There's also required information for sellers. Same thing. There's just a lot of information they got to fill out. You can see here, funds used for acquisition of the property. Wow. Okay. Certification required for beneficial reliance. So look, a lot of information. It all has to be reported. And if you don't, it's a fine or you don't close. All right. Street address, legal description, date of closing. Listen, if you got any questions, you see right here, that is my email. You probably already have my email. If you don't, there it is right there. Shoot me an email with your specific questions, and I will be happy to either answer them if I know, or I will refer you to my settlement agent, my attorney. We will get the information that you need to help you understand and get a warm and fuzzy about the FinCEN reporting requirements. Again, I will have a Google Drive in this description of this video, and this Google Drive will be available to anybody that needs to get this information. Go through, download these documents, read through them. The information is there. Please report. Let's close.